The wreckage of the Cathari battle cruiser Bloodfang stretched across the rocky surface of Zirion 7 like a broken metal skeleton. Steam rose from twisted hull plates, where the ship's cooling systems had burst, mixing with the thin, toxic atmosphere of the barren moon. Among the debris, Commander Zixara lay trapped beneath a massive support beam, her powerful frame pinned against the cold ground. Purple blood seeped from cuts along her scaled arms and face. Each breath came as a struggle through her damaged respiratory system. The 8-foot-tall warrior who had conquered 12 worlds for the Cathari Empire now found herself helpless, watching her life drain away drop by drop. Zixar had been leading a patrol mission when the asteroid field ambush caught her ship off guard. 3 enemy vessels had appeared from behind the larger rocks, firing plasma cannons before her crew could react. The battle was brief but devastating. Her ship had crashed hard into the moon's surface, killing most of her warriors instantly. Only she remained alive, and not for much longer. The heavy beam across her chest made breathing difficult. Her left arm was completely numb, probably broken in several places. Worse still, she could feel the toxic air of Zirion 7 burning her lungs with each breath. Without her ship's life support systems, she had maybe 2 hours before the poisonous atmosphere killed her. Strength above all, she whispered, reciting the ancient Cathari motto. Her people believed that only the strong deserved to live. The weak were meant to die. It was the natural order of things. But lying here, helpless and dying, Zixar wondered if she had ever truly been strong at all. A sound made her turn her head. Metal scraped against rocks somewhere in the wreckage. At first, she thought it might be one of her surviving crew members. But the footsteps were too light, too careful. Someone was moving through the debris, searching for something. Who goes there? Zixar called out in her native language, her voice rough and weak. The footsteps stopped. Then a figure appeared from behind a piece of twisted hull plating. It was a human male, wearing a brown salvage suit and carrying a plasma-cutting torch. His dark hair was messy under his helmet, and his brown eyes widened when he saw her. Zixar had seen humans before during battles, but never this close. This one looked young, maybe in his 30s by human standards. He was small compared to her people, standing only about 6 feet tall with a thin build. Like all humans, he looked fragile and weak. "Stay back, human," Zixar growled in broken galactic standard, the common language used for trade between species. "I am Commander Zixar of the Cathari Empire. When my people find me, they will hunt you down for witnessing my weakness." The human stepped closer instead of running away. He held up his hands to show he carried no weapons other than his cutting tool. "My name is Marcus Chen," he said in a calm voice. "I'm a salvage operator. I picked up your ship's distress signal." "There was no distress signal," Zixar replied, confused. "Our systems were destroyed in the crash." Marcus pointed to a small device on his belt. "Emergency beacons keep broadcasting for hours after impact. It's an automatic safety feature." He looked at the beam crushing her chest, then at the purple blood pooling beneath her. "You're hurt pretty bad. Leave me," Zixar commanded. "I do not need help from a weak human." But Marcus was already moving around the wreckage, examining the beam that trapped her. "This support strut is definitely the problem," he said, more to himself than to her. "If I can cut through it at the right angle, the weight should shift enough to free you." "Did you not hear me?" Zixar's voice grew louder, though it cost her energy she could not spare. "I ordered you to leave. My people are enemies of your kind. I have personally destroyed 3 human colonies. I have killed hundreds of your species in battle." Marcus paused in his examination of the beam. For a moment, his face showed pain at her words. Then he looked directly into her eyes. "I know who the Cathari are," he said quietly. "I know what your people have done to mine. But I can't just walk away and let you die." "Why?" The question came out before Zixar could stop herself. In her culture, enemies left each other to die. It was expected. Natural, right? Marcus activated his plasma torch, adjusting the settings for cutting through Cathari hull metal. "Because it's wrong to let someone suffer when you can help them," he said simply. As he began cutting through the beam, Zixara studied his face. She expected to see calculation there, some hidden motive or plan. Humans were known to be tricky, always plotting for advantage. But all she saw was concentration and what looked like genuine concern. "You gain nothing from this," she said, still trying to understand his actions. "Saving me gives you no strategic benefit. My people will not reward you for this kindness. They will probably kill you for it. I'm not doing this for a reward," Marcus replied without looking up from his work. The plasma torch sent bright sparks flying as it slowly cut through the metal. "I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do." The concept was completely foreign to Zixara. In Cathari society, actions were judged only by their results. Strength brought victory. Victory brought honor. Honor brought respect. There was no room for actions that brought no benefit. "Your philosophy is foolish," she said. Though her voice lacked its earlier harshness, the universe is cruel only. The strong survive. The weak deserve their fate. Marcus paused in his cutting and looked at her again. "Maybe the universe is cruel," he said. "But that doesn't mean we have to be." A low rumble in the distance made them both look up. Dark clouds were gathering on the horizon, moving fast across the barren landscape. The toxic storms of Zirian 7 were approaching. "How long until that storm reaches us?" Marcus asked, working faster with his torch. Zixara calculated based on the wind pattern she had studied before the crash. 20 minutes, maybe less. "The atmospheric pressure will crush your lungs if you are caught outside during the storm." "Then I better hurry," Marcus said, increasing the power of his cutting tool. "Fool," Zixara whispered, but there was less anger in her voice now. More confusion. "You should save yourself. Leave me and run to your ship." "Not happening," Marcus replied firmly. "We're both getting out of here alive." As the storm clouds grew darker and the wind began to howl across the wreckage, Zixara found herself in a situation she had never experienced before. A human, her people's enemy, was risking his life to save hers, expecting nothing in return. For the first time in her life, the great warrior commander Zixara began to question everything she had been taught about strength, weakness, and what it truly meant to be powerful. The plasma torch finally cut through the last section of the metal beam. Marcus quickly shut off the tool and grabbed the heavy piece of debris with both hands. His muscles strained as he lifted it just enough for Zixara to pull herself free. From underneath, "Can you move?" Marcus asked, extending his hand to help her stand. Zixara stared at his outstretched hand for a moment. In her culture, accepting help was a sign of weakness. But with the toxic storm only minutes away, she had no choice. She took his hand and allowed him to help her to her feet. Standing up sent waves of pain through her body. Her left arm hung useless at her side, definitely broken. Purple blood still dripped from several cuts on her face and arms, but she was alive. And that was more than she had expected 10 minutes ago. "My ship is about half a mile that way," Marcus said, pointing toward a rocky hill. "Can you make it that far?" Zixara looked at the distance and nodded. "I can walk." They moved as quickly as possible across the broken ground. The wind was getting stronger, and the air itself seemed to be getting thicker and more poisonous. Marcus stayed close to her side, ready to help if she stumbled. Several times, when her injured leg nearly gave out, he steadied her without being asked. His ship was a small cargo vessel called the Lucky Strike. It was old and scratched, clearly used for salvage work rather than combat. Marcus helped Zixara up the loading ramp just as the first drops of toxic rain began to fall from the dark clouds above. "That was close," Marcus said, sealing the ship's airlock behind them. Clean, breathable air filled Zixara's lungs for the first time since the crash. "Let's get you to the medical bay." The inside of Marcus's ship was cramped but clean. Everything was organized and well maintained despite the vessel's age. Marcus led her to a small medical room with a single bed and some basic healing equipment. "I'm not a doctor," Marcus said, opening a medical kit, "but I know enough to treat basic injuries. Let me look at that arm." Zixara sat on the medical bed and allowed him to examine her broken limb. His touch was gentle, careful not to cause unnecessary pain. She watched his face as he worked, still trying to understand his motives. "Why do you care if I live or die?" she asked suddenly. Marcus looked up from wrapping her arm in a support bandage. "What do you mean? You said you know what my people have done to yours. You know I'm your enemy, so why does my pain matter to you?" Marcus was quiet for a moment as he continued working on her injuries. "When I was a kid," he finally said, "I found a wounded bird in my backyard. Its wing was broken, probably from flying into a window. My dad told me to leave it alone, said it would die anyway." He paused to clean a cut on her forehead with antiseptic. "But I couldn't just leave it there. I brought it inside, made a little nest in a box, fed it with an eyedropper, took care of it for weeks until its wing healed. And then," Zixar asked, "then I let it go. It flew away and I never saw it again." Marcus smiled slightly. "My dad asked me why I bothered. Since the bird couldn't thank me or repay me, I told him I didn't do it for the bird's sake. I did it for my own." Zixar frowned. "I did not understand. I couldn't live with myself if I had just walked away and let something suffer. When I could have helped, it would have changed who I am inside, made me harder, colder." Marcus finished bandaging her injuries and stepped back. "I help because that's who I choose to be." This explanation only confused Zixar more. In her world, identity came from strength and conquest. The idea of choosing to be something based on compassion was completely foreign to her. "Your people must think you are weak," she said. Marcus laughed, but not unkindly. "Some do, but the people who matter to me understand." He moved to the ship's communication panel and began entering coordinates. "I'm setting course for Kepler Base. It's a neutral medical station about 3 days from here. They have facilities that can treat your injuries properly." Zixara's eyes widened. "You cannot take me there. If my people discover I am alive, they will come for me, and they will destroy you for helping me." "Maybe," Marcus said calmly, "but you need medical treatment I can't provide. Some of your internal injuries look serious." "This is foolish beyond measure," Zixara protested. "You should contact my fleet and arrange for my return. Tell them you found me in the wreckage and are returning me for a reward." Marcus shook his head. "You'd be dead before we reached your fleet. Those internal injuries need treatment soon, or they'll kill you. Then let me die with honor rather than as a burden to my enemies." "No," Marcus's voice was firm. "I didn't risk my life pulling you out of that wreckage just to let you die now." As the ship lifted off from Zirian 7, Zixara found herself in a situation she had never imagined. She was completely helpless, dependent on the mercy of a human who owed her nothing but kindness. Everything about this situation went against everything she had been taught about strength, honor, and survival. "I do not understand you, Marcus Chen," she said quietly. "That's okay," Marcus replied, checking their course on the navigation display. "You don't have to understand, you just have to get better." Over the next few hours, as they traveled through space toward Kepler Base, Zixara observed Marcus's daily routines. She watched him talk to his ship's computer system, speaking to it like it was a friend rather than just a machine. She saw him pause his work to watch a distant nebula through the ship's viewports, his face showing wonder at its beauty. Most strange of all, she listened as he spoke to someone on a personal communication channel. From what she could understand, he was talking to his sister back on Earth. "I'm okay, Sarah," he said into the communicator. "The salvage job is taking longer than expected, but I should be back within the week. How are you feeling?" The woman's voice that came through the speaker was weak and tired. "The treatments are helping, but the doctors say I need the surgery soon. Have you saved enough credits yet?" Marcus glanced toward the medical bay where Zixara was resting, then back at the communicator. "Don't worry about the money. I'll figure something out. Just focus on getting stronger." After he ended the call, Zixara realized something that shocked her even more than his initial kindness. This human was not wealthy. His ship was old, his equipment basic, and yet he was taking her to an expensive medical facility, using time and resources he clearly could not spare. "Your sister," she said when he brought her some food. "She is ill." Marcus nodded. "Cancer. She needs an operation that costs more than I make in 2 years." And yet you waste time and fuel helping me instead of earning money for her treatment? Marcus set the food tray down beside her. It's not a waste. And Sarah would be angry with me if I had left you to die just to make a few more credits. For the first time in her adult life, Commander Zixara felt completely lost. Nothing in her warrior training had prepared her for this kind of moral complexity. This human was showing her a type of strength she had never seen before. The strength to choose compassion even when it cost him dearly. As the ship continued toward Kepler base, Zixara began to realize that perhaps she understood nothing about strength at all. Kepler base appeared on the ship's view screen like a massive metal flower floating in space. The neutral medical station was built from interconnected rings that slowly rotated around a central hub. Ships from dozens of different species docked at its ports, seeking medical treatment regardless of their political conflicts. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Marcus said, piloting the Lucky Strike toward one of the docking bays. Kepler base is one of the few places in the galaxy where everyone agrees to put aside their differences. Medical emergencies don't care about politics. Zixara watched the station grow larger through the viewport. She had heard of Kepler base, but had never seen it before. The Kethari Empire generally handled their own medical needs and viewed asking outsiders for help as weakness. "The treatments here will be expensive," she said, though she was not sure why she was warning him. "I know," Marcus replied calmly, guiding the ship into the docking bay. "But you need proper medical care." After they docked, Marcus helped Zixara into a wheelchair provided by the station's medical staff. A doctor named Dr. Yanara, a blue-skinned Volarian with 6 arms, examined Zixara's injuries quickly: internal bleeding, 3 broken ribs, fractured arm, and lung damage from toxic exposure. Dr. Yanara announced after her scan. "She needs immediate surgery and at least a week of bioregeneration therapy." "How much will that cost?" Marcus asked. Dr. Yanara consulted her tablet. "For a patient of her size and species, approximately 15,000 credits. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Zixara saw something change in his expression, a brief flash of pain that he quickly hid. "Do whatever she needs," he said finally. "We will need payment authorization before beginning the procedures," Dr. Yanara explained. "I understand. Give me a few minutes." Marcus stepped away to use a payment terminal in the waiting area. Zixara watched him through the doorway as he accessed his personal accounts. She could not see the screen, but she saw his shoulders slump slightly as he entered the authorization codes. When he returned, his face showed nothing but calm determination. "It's all arranged. They'll take good care of you." As the medical staff prepared to take Zixara to surgery, she grabbed Marcus's arm with her good hand. "Why are you doing this? The money you are spending, it was for your sister's treatment, was it not?" Marcus met her eyes steadily. "Sarah will understand, but she will die without that surgery." "Maybe," Marcus said quietly, "but I'll find another way to get the money for her treatment. I couldn't find another way to live with myself if I let you die when I could save you." They took Zixara away to surgery before she could respond. As the anesthesia took hold, her last conscious thought was of Marcus's face, sad but absolutely certain of his choice. When Zixara woke up 18 hours later, the pain in her chest was gone. Dr. Yanara explained that the surgery had been successful and that the bioregeneration therapy would help her heal completely within a few days. "Where is Marcus?" Zixara asked the human male. "He is in the waiting area. He has not left the station since you went into surgery." Zixara found this information disturbing. "He waited here the entire time." "Yes. Most unusual behavior. Patients and those who bring them usually leave after making payment arrangements. But he insisted on staying until he recovered." When Dr. Yanara left, Zixara lay in her medical bed staring at the ceiling. She tried to understand what had happened. Marcus had spent his life savings, money meant to save his own sister, to pay for the medical treatment of an enemy warrior who had killed members of his species. In Kethari culture, such an action would be considered not just weakness, but actual madness. Family came before strangers. Your own people came before enemies. These were basic survival principles that every intelligent species understood. But Marcus had broken these rules. He had chosen to save her life even though it might cost his sister's life. And he had done it not for strategic gain or political advantage, but simply because he believed it was right. I do not understand, Zixara whispered to herself 2 days later. When she was strong enough to walk around the medical bay, Marcus finally visited her. He looked tired and worried, but he smiled when he saw her standing. You look much better, he said. How do you feel? My body is healing well, Zixara replied, but I have questions that will not heal. Marcus sat in a chair beside her bed. What kind of questions? You sacrificed your family's future for me. Why? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Do you have family, Zixara? The question surprised her. I have a clutch sister. She serves as a lieutenant in the 4th Fleet. Do you love her? Love? Zixara frowned. Cathari do not. We respect family bonds. We honor our blood connections. But do you care about her happiness, her well-being? Zixara considered this. Yes, if she were in danger, I would protect her. Good, Marcus said. Then you understand family loyalty. Now let me ask you something else. If you saw a child, any child, from any species, drowning in a river, would you save them? That would depend on the tactical situation and no tactics, no strategy, just you and a drowning child. Would you save them? Zixara found herself thinking about the question seriously. Perhaps. If there was no danger to myself, even if the child was human. This made Zixara pause longer. Eventually, she nodded. Yes. Even then. Why? Because. Zixara struggled to find words for a feeling she had never examined before. Because allowing a child to die when you could save them would be wrong. Marcus smiled. That's exactly why I saved you and why I paid for your treatment. Because letting you die when I could save you would have been wrong. But your sister, my sister raised me after our parents died, Marcus interrupted. She taught me about right and wrong. She would be ashamed of me if I had chosen differently. She would rather die herself than know I had become the kind of person who could walk away from someone who needed help. Zixara sat down heavily on her bed. Your species confuses me, Marcus Chen. You speak of strength, but you define it differently than we do. Maybe we're both right, Marcus said. Maybe there are different kinds of strength. What will you do now? How will you get money for your sister's treatment? Marcus stood up and moved toward the door. I'll figure something out. I always do. As he reached the doorway, Zixara called out to him, Marcus. He turned back. Thank you, she said quietly. No one has ever. I have never experienced. She struggled to find the right words. Among my people, we have no word for what you have shown me. What's that? Kindness to an enemy. Mercy without weakness, strength through compassion. Zixara looked directly into his eyes. I think your species has something that mine has. Lost, Marcus smiled again. Maybe, or maybe your people just haven't found it yet, after he left. Zixara remained sitting on her bed for a long time, for the first time in her life. The great warrior commander Zixara began to question not just her understanding of strength, but her understanding of what it truly meant to be alive. 3 days after her surgery, Zixara was declared healthy enough to travel. As they prepared to leave Kepler base, she made a decision that surprised even herself. I invoked the law of life debt, she announced to Marcus as they boarded his ship. Marcus looked confused. What does that mean? It is an ancient Cathari law. When someone saves a warrior's life, that person is protected by the warrior's honor until the debt is repaid. Zixara straightened her shoulders, looking more like the commander she was. You are now under my personal protection, Marcus Chen. I don't need protection, Marcus said, starting the ship's engines. Yes, you do. My people will not understand what you did for me. They will see your kindness as a trick or a weakness to be exploited. But the law of life debt is older than the Empire itself. Even the High Command must respect it. As they left Kepler base, Marcus set course for the nearest trade route where he could contact the Cathari fleet. Are you sure about this? Once we make contact, there's no going back. Zixara nodded. It is time for me to return to my duties. But first, I must ensure your safety. The journey to the rendezvous point took 2 days. During that time, Zixara observed Marcus more closely than ever before. She watched him perform his daily routines with the same patient care he had shown her. He spoke gently to his ship's computer, thanking it for small services. He prepared their meals with attention to her dietary needs as well as his own. Most interesting to Zixara was how Marcus spent his free time. Instead of training for combat or studying tactical manuals like a Kethari warrior would, he read stories on his datapad. When she asked about this habit, he smiled. Books help me understand different ways of thinking. Marcus explained, this one is about a farmer who becomes a hero not through fighting, but by teaching others to grow food during a famine. How does growing food make someone a hero? Zixara asked. He saved more lives with seeds than most warriors save with weapons, Marcus replied. This idea fascinated Zixara. In her culture, heroes were defined by their victories in battle. The concept of heroism through creation rather than destruction was completely new to her. Do you have stories about warriors in your culture? She asked. Of course. But our greatest heroes are often people who chose not to fight. People who found ways to solve problems without violence. Marcus showed her the cover of another book. This one is about a doctor who stopped a plague that was killing thousands of people. But surely you have stories of great battles? Conquest of enemies? Marcus nodded. We do. But those aren't usually the stories we tell our children. We prefer stories about people who built things, healed things, or protected things. As Zixara thought about this, she realized something troubling. Most Kethari stories were about destruction, about conquering weaker species and taking their resources. She had never heard a Kethari story about someone who became famous for helping people. Your species is very strange, she said finally. Maybe, Marcus agreed. But I think that's what makes life interesting. On the second day of their journey, they received a transmission from a Kethari battle cruiser called the Iron Talon. The ship's captain, a scarred veteran named Krekstar, appeared on the communication screen. Commander Zixara, Krekstar said, his voice showing both relief and suspicion. We have been searching for you since your ship was reported missing. Are you injured? I am recovered, Captain Krekstar. This human found me in the wreckage of my ship and provided medical assistance. Krekstar's eyes narrowed as he looked at Marcus. A human helped you. What does he want in return? Nothing, Zixara replied. He saved my life and asked for nothing. Impossible. Humans always have hidden motives. Krekstar's expression grew darker. We will take you aboard immediately and dispose of this human. He has seen too much of our military operations. No, Zixara said firmly. I invoke the law of life debt. This human is under my protection. Krekstar looked shocked. Commander, surely you do not mean to apply our ancient laws to an enemy alien? The law makes no distinction between species. Marcus Chen saved my life. He is protected by my honor until the debt is repaid. This is unprecedented, Krekstar muttered. The High Command will not approve of this decision. The High Command will respect the ancient laws, or they will answer to me personally. Zixara replied with the full authority of her rank. An hour later, Marcus docked his small ship inside the cargo bay of the Iron Talon. As they disembarked, Zixara could see her crew's reactions to Marcus. The Kethari warriors stared at the human with a mixture of curiosity and hostility. Some made threatening gestures until Zixara ordered them to stand down. This human is under my protection, she announced to the assembled crew. Anyone who harms him will answer to me. Captain Krekstar approached them, still looking uncomfortable with the situation. Commander, with respect, having this human aboard makes the crew nervous. Perhaps we could arrange for his transport to a neutral station? Marcus will remain aboard until I decide his debt is repaid, Zixara said. Then she turned to Marcus. You will be given quarters near mine. You are free to move about the ship, but I suggest you avoid the training decks and weapons areas. As they walked through the corridors of the Kethari ship, Marcus drew stares from every warrior they passed, but instead of showing fear, he nodded politely to each one and even attempted to greet them in their own language. Peace and strength to you, he said in badly pronounced Cathari to a group of young warriors. The warriors looked shocked. No human had ever greeted them in their native tongue before. One of them, a female named Vexara, actually responded, "Peace and strength to you as well, human," she said hesitantly. Over the following days, as the Iron Talon continued its patrol mission, something unusual began to happen. Marcus's presence on the ship started to change the crew's behavior in small but noticeable ways. It began when Marcus helped an injured warrior named Thokar who had hurt his back. During combat training, despite being an enemy, Marcus offered to show Thokar some human stretching exercises that might help with the pain. "Why do you help me?" Thokar asked suspiciously. "Because you're hurt," Marcus replied simply. Word of this interaction spread through the ship. Soon, other warriors began approaching Marcus with questions about human culture, technology, and even philosophy. They were amazed to discover that humans had art, music, and stories just like the Cathari did. Zixara watched these interactions with growing wonder. She saw hardened warriors laughing at Marcus's jokes and sharing stories about their families with him. She saw them asking his opinion on matters that had nothing to do with warfare. Most surprising of all, she noticed that the crew members who spent time talking with Marcus began treating each other more kindly. They were more patient with mistakes, more willing to help with difficult tasks, and less quick to resort to violence when disagreements arose. "He is changing us," Zixara whispered to herself one evening as she watched Marcus teaching a group of young warriors how to play a human card game for the first time in her life. Commander Zixara began to understand that there might be different ways to be strong, and perhaps, she thought, the humans had discovered a type of strength that her people had never even imagined. 2 weeks after Marcus joined the crew of the Iron Talon, they received urgent orders to return to the Cathari homeworld. The High Command had learned about Zixara's use of the Law of Life Debt to protect a human, and they were not pleased. "They want to see you immediately," Captain Krextar told Zixara privately, "and they want the human brought for questioning." Zixara felt a chill of worry. "What kind of questioning?" "The kind that humans rarely survive," Krextar replied grimly. When they arrived at the massive space station orbiting the Cathari homeworld, Zixara and Marcus were escorted to the High Command chamber by a full squad of elite guards. The chamber was a huge circular room with seats arranged in rising tiers around a central platform. 12 of the most powerful Cathari commanders sat in judgment, their scarred faces showing no emotion. At the center sat High Commander Vorthik, an ancient warrior whose victories were legendary throughout the Empire. "Commander Zixara," Vorthik's voice echoed through the chamber, "you stand accused of contamination by alien ideals and corruption of military discipline. How do you answer?" Zixara stood straight and proud on the platform. "I answer that I follow the ancient laws of our people, High Commander. The Law of Life Debt was written for our own kind, not for enemy aliens," growled Commander Hector. "From the upper seats, you have dishonored yourself and your rank. I have honored both," Zixara replied firmly. "This human saved my life when he could have left me to die. He asked for nothing in return. He showed me what our ancestors meant when they spoke of true strength. True strength." Vorthik leaned forward, explained this foolishness. Zixara took a deep breath. What she was about to say would either save Marcus or doom them both. "High Commander, for generations we have believed that strength comes from destroying our enemies. But I have learned that there is a greater strength, the strength to help those who cannot help themselves." Murmurs of anger rippled through the chamber. Several commanders stood up, shouting about weakness and corruption. But Zixara continued speaking. "This human spent his life savings to heal my injuries. He risked his own safety to protect me from harm. He showed kindness to our crew members and asked nothing in return. Tell me, honored commanders, which requires more courage, to destroy someone weaker than yourself, or to help someone who could be your enemy?" "Enough!" Vorthik slammed his fist on his chair. "You speak like a weak-minded fool. Guards, take the human away for execution. As for you, Zixara, you will be stripped of rank and exiled from the Empire." But before the guards could move, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red as a voice announced over the speakers. Alert! Alert! Enemy forces attacking Sector 7. All available ships report to battle stations. Through the chamber's large windows, they could see explosions in the distance as enemy ships attacked the outer defense platforms. The High Command meeting was immediately suspended, as commanders rushed to coordinate the defense. What enemy? Vorthik demanded of his communications officer. Skarn Raiders, High Commander. 3 battle groups. They caught our patrol ships by surprise. The Skarn were a vicious species known for attacking civilian targets. They took no prisoners and showed no mercy to anyone they captured. If they broke through the station's defenses, thousands of Kethari civilians on the homeworld below would die. We need every available ship, Commander Hector reported. But our forces are scattered across the system. It will take time to gather them. Marcus stepped forward. High Commander, may I make a suggestion? Vorthik looked at him with surprise and anger. You dare speak in this chamber, human? The Skarn attack pattern is predictable, Marcus said calmly, despite the hostile stares around him. They're trying to draw your main forces away from the civilian evacuation routes. If you position your ships here and here, he pointed to locations on the tactical display, you can protect the evacuation ships while still defending the station. Why would you help us? Vorthik asked suspiciously. Because innocent people are in danger, Marcus replied simply. Skarn Raiders don't care if their victims are military or civilian. Children will die if we don't stop them. Vorthik studied the tactical display, then looked at his advisors. The human strategy has merit, one of them admitted reluctantly. It would save more lives than our current defensive plan, another agreed. As the battle raged around the station, Marcus worked alongside Kethari officers to coordinate the defense. His knowledge of Skarn tactics proved invaluable in predicting their movements. More importantly, his presence seemed to calm the younger officers who were panicking under the pressure. Focus on protecting the evacuation ships, Marcus told a frightened communications officer. Every civilian ship that escapes is a victory. Zixara watched Marcus work and felt something she had never experienced before. Pride. Not the fierce pride of conquest, but a quiet pride in knowing someone who chose to help others even when those others had planned to execute him. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Skarn had been driven off, and every civilian evacuation ship had escaped safely. The defense had succeeded largely due to Marcus's tactical suggestions and his calming influence on the younger crew members. In the aftermath, High Commander Vorthik called Zixara and Marcus back to the command chamber. But this time, his expression was thoughtful rather than angry. Human, he said. You helped us save thousands of lives today. Why? Because it was the right thing to do, Marcus answered. Vorthik was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to Zixara. Commander, you spoke of a different kind of strength. Perhaps there is wisdom in your words. What are you saying? High Commander, Zixara asked. I am saying that strength which builds is perhaps more valuable than strength which destroys. Vorthik stood up from his chair. Zixara, you will retain your rank, but you will be given a new assignment. What assignment? You will establish a new corps within our military, a group dedicated to helping others rather than conquering them, medical rescue, disaster relief, protection of civilians. Vorthik looked at Marcus. And this human will serve as your advisor. If he is willing, Marcus smiled. I'd be honored to help. 6 months later, Zixara stood on the bridge of her new ship, the Healing Wind. It was painted white instead of the traditional Kethari black, and its weapons had been replaced with medical facilities and rescue equipment. Commander, her communications officer reported, we're receiving a distress signal from a human colony ship. Engine failure in an asteroid field. Set course to intercept, Zixara ordered. Maximum speed. As her ship raced toward the endangered humans, Zixara reflected on how much her life had changed. She was still a warrior, but now she fought against suffering instead of causing it. She had learned that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the choice to preserve and protect. Marcus joined her on the bridge, carrying medical supplies, ready for another rescue mission. Zixara smiled. an expression that would have been impossible for her just months ago. Always ready, my friend, always ready, together. The former destroyer and the human who had saved her soul flew toward their next mission, proving that the greatest victories were won not through conquest, but through compassion.